I never imagined that my perfect wedding day would become the beginning of the worst betrayal of my life, but sometimes the people closest to you are capable of unthinkable cruelty. Sarah had been my best friend since college, and I trusted her completely when I asked her to be my maid of honor for my wedding to Michael, my high school sweetheart who I had been with for 6 years. She helped me plan every detail of our dream wedding, from choosing the perfect flowers to organizing the bachelorette party, and I thought she was genuinely happy for me as I prepared to marry the love of my life. The wedding itself was absolutely magical, with over 200 guests celebrating our love in a beautiful garden ceremony that looked like something out of a fairy tale. I felt like the luckiest woman alive as Michael and I danced our first dance as husband and wife, surrounded by all our friends and family who had come to witness our perfect beginning. The first sign that something was wrong came during our wedding reception when I noticed that Sarah kept disappearing for long periods of time, claiming she was helping coordinate with the vendors or checking on various wedding details. Michael also seemed distracted during the reception, constantly checking his phone and stepping away from conversations to take mysterious calls that he said were work-related emergencies that couldn't wait until after our honeymoon. I was too caught up in the joy of my wedding day to pay much attention to these red flags, and I trusted both of them completely, never imagining that they could be capable of such devastating betrayal. The reception ended perfectly with a beautiful sparkler send-off, and Michael and I headed to our honeymoon suite at a luxury hotel downtown, where we planned to spend our first night as a married couple before flying to Hawaii the next morning for our dream honeymoon. What happened next will haunt me for the rest of my life, because instead of the romantic wedding night I had dreamed about for years, I discovered a betrayal so deep that it shattered my entire world in an instant. Around midnight, I woke up feeling sick from all the wedding cake and champagne, and when I reached for Michael, I found his side of the bed empty and cold. I assumed he had gone to get some water or perhaps stepped onto the balcony to get some fresh air, but when I searched the entire hotel suite, he was nowhere to be found. His phone was gone, his clothes were missing, and there was no note explaining where he had disappeared to on our wedding night. I tried calling him repeatedly, but his phone went straight to voicemail, and panic began to set in as I realized that my new husband had vanished just hours after we had exchanged vows in front of everyone we loved. The devastating truth came to light the next morning when I went to Sarah's apartment to ask if she had heard from Michael, and I found them together in her bed, clearly having spent the night together while I was alone in my honeymoon suite. The sight of my best friend and my new husband tangled in sheets, looking guilty and panicked when they saw me standing in the doorway, is burned into my memory forever. Sarah tried to stammer out some excuse about Michael needing someone to talk to because he was having second thoughts about marriage, but the evidence of their betrayal was undeniable, and I could see in their eyes that this wasn't a one-time mistake but something that had been going on behind my back for who knows how long. Michael couldn't even look at me as he grabbed his clothes and tried to explain that he had been confused about his feelings and didn't know how to tell me that he had fallen in love with Sarah instead of me. Instead of falling apart completely, I channeled my devastation into cold, calculated planning for the most epic revenge I could possibly imagine, because there was no way I was going to let them destroy my life without facing serious consequences. I immediately filed for an annulment, citing fraud and adultery, and began documenting every aspect of their betrayal to ensure that Michael would pay dearly in our divorce proceedings. But my real focus was on Sarah, who had pretended to be my best friend while systematically destroying my marriage from the inside, and I knew that she deserved a special kind of punishment that would expose her true character to everyone who thought they knew her. I spent months gathering evidence of their affair, tracking their relationship timeline, and discovering that they had been sneaking around together for at least 3 months before my wedding, making every moment of my wedding planning feel like a cruel joke they had been playing on me. The perfect opportunity for revenge presented itself 6 months later when Sarah discovered she was pregnant with Michael's baby, and she decided to throw herself an elaborate baby shower to celebrate her new role as a mother-to-be. She had the audacity to invite many of the same people who had attended my wedding, presenting herself as a victim of unexpected love rather than the home-wrecking liar she actually was. Sarah had been telling everyone that Michael had realized he wasn't ready for marriage and that their relationship had developed naturally after my marriage ended, completely rewriting history to make herself look innocent. She was basking in the attention and sympathy from friends and family who had no idea that she had been sleeping with my husband while helping me plan my wedding, and she was enjoying playing the role of the glowing expectant mother who had found her soulmate. I accepted the baby shower invitation with enthusiasm, telling Sarah that I had worked through my hurt feelings and wanted to celebrate this new chapter in her life, even bringing along a special gift that I claimed had taken me weeks to find. The shower was held at an elegant restaurant with about 50 guests, including Michael's family, Sarah's relatives, and many mutual friends who had witnessed our wedding disaster 6 months earlier. Sarah looked radiant in a flowing maternity dress, opening gifts and posing for photos while Michael hovered nearby looking uncomfortable but trying to play the role of the devoted father-to-be. The atmosphere was warm and celebratory, with everyone congratulating Sarah on her pregnancy and praising her for finding happiness after such a difficult situation, completely unaware that they were about to witness the most legendary revenge in baby shower history. My moment of triumph came when it was time for Sarah to open my special gift, which I had wrapped beautifully and placed prominently on the gift table with a card that read, "For your new beginning, may you get exactly what you deserve." Inside the elegant box was a custom-made photo album that I had titled The Real Love Story, and as Sarah opened it in front of all her guests, her face went white with horror. The album contained a detailed timeline of her affair with Michael, complete with screenshots of their secret text messages, photos of them together during my wedding planning period, and documentation of their hotel receipts and secret meetings. But the real masterpiece was the final page, which featured photos from my wedding day with timestamps showing exactly when they had been sneaking away together, proving that they had been carrying on their affair even during my wedding reception. The silence in the room was deafening as guests realized what they were looking at, and several people gasped audibly when they understood the full scope of Sarah's betrayal and deception. Michael tried to grab the album away from Sarah, but it was too late because everyone had already seen enough to understand that Sarah had been lying about the timeline of their relationship and had actually been cheating with him while pretending to be my devoted maid of honor. Sarah's mother started crying when she realized her daughter had been capable of such cruelty, and several guests began leaving immediately, clearly disgusted by what they had witnessed. The beautiful baby shower celebration turned into a nightmare of shame and humiliation as Sarah's carefully constructed lies crumbled in front of everyone who mattered to her, and she was left sobbing in her maternity dress while guests whispered among themselves about her shocking betrayal. The aftermath of my baby shower revenge was even more satisfying than I had hoped, as Sarah's reputation was completely destroyed and she lost the support of friends and family who could no longer look at her the same way. Michael's family, who had initially welcomed Sarah as his new partner, were horrified to learn the truth about how their relationship had started and began treating both of them with cold disapproval. Sarah lost several close friendships that day, including relationships with people who had known us both for years and were disgusted by her level of deception and betrayal. The stress of being publicly exposed as a liar and homewrecker affected her pregnancy, and she ended up on bed rest for the final months, giving her plenty of time to think about the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, I was finally able to move on with my life, knowing that justice had been served and that everyone now knew the truth about what kind of person Sarah really was beneath her sweet, innocent facade. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people see someone's true character, and watching as they face the natural consequences of their own terrible choices while you walk away with your dignity intact.